When should you start planning for an exit? If you make $1 billion revenue and 100K profit in a marketing agency, it's like, why would someone want that level of operations for such a low level of profit? So that net profit of 500K is now 350K. Because if you're working 60 to 80 hours, someone needs to be covering that. Where things get interesting in terms of profit is 100K plus.
Today on the show, I'm happy to have George Moulos. He's the founder of e-commerce brokers. And you did your first 7-figure deal when you were 21 with this business. We actually met because I was looking to sell my e-commerce business. And I said, wait, who's this 25-year-old guy who's brokering e-commerce companies? Somebody who's looking to sell their business or thinking or wants to have that exit in, let's say, a couple of years. What would be your advice to them?
One question that I get is, when should you start planning for an exit? As soon as you start, before you even start. Everything should be exit planning about running the business, unless you want to keep it forever, which is rarely the case for anybody. The funny thing is, most people don't even know that they can sell their business, especially online businesses. First, so with that being said, I would say plan and build it for a sale. We have the pleasure of choosing what niche and industry we're in. Choose one that is highly scalable, that can be automated, that doesn't need a expert in the business. Make it and slow it. So for example, we've sold a lot of agencies. We probably sell more marketing agencies than any of the top 5 brokerages, right? And there's a lot of things that marketing agency owners build that it makes it very unsellable. And then we have to spend a year changing the business and making it more sellable. So first thing is, I am guilty of this with my marketing agency. Don't put your name in the business name, right? That's not going to be easy to change for a buyer. And it's not saying that it's unsellable if you have any of these things. However, the buyers are going to say, hey, how much is this going to impact revenue post acquisition? So if it's Moulos Media, like my agency was called, and you're looking to buy it, you say, hey, George, when Moulos is no longer in Moulos Media, how much revenue is going to be lost? If you can change that name or just not have that name at all, and you see no impact, like we do with our clients, in planning, exit planning, then you can say, yeah, it doesn't impact it at all. And then your price won't be impacted. So having your face all over the website, yes, that's fine for the first year or two. But once things are going quite well, put managers and other employees in the videos, or hire a professional video maker to do that. You want to distance yourself from the business so that someone else can slot into your place without issue. Another thing, of course, is automation. You want to automate and delegate your position away. The main issue that people have in buying a business, especially a marketing agency, is that they see that the business is that they see that the owner is not paying themselves a salary. So that net profit of 500K is now 350K. Because if you're working 60 to 80 hours, someone needs to be covering that. And if you're going to be leaving the business, a buyer in that price range does not want a full-time job. So they're going to have to pay those salaries. So your business is now worthless because your 12 months EBITDA is less, and they're going to have to hire someone. So if you can slowly push, first step is start delegating some of your responsibilities away to the existing team. Start bringing in a manager to take over your role, and your role should be under 10 hours a week. Try and get under 5. That is the type of involvement a buyer is looking for in these price ranges. And really anything with over 200-300K EBITDA, those buyers aren't looking for a job. They're looking to oversee something. They want to work on the business, not in the business. So automation, pushing the responsibilities of the owner away to the existing team or hiring someone. What else can you do to exit plan? One great thing that we always say is just get your paperwork, get your finances together. A lot of owners, especially when you started the business, you don't keep the finances cleaned up, in check. You're not doing your annual or monthly or quarterly profit loss sheets. You need to, if you can keep that all put together very nicely, your chances of success are much higher than someone who has just the last 12 months and they were done very quickly. So I'd say those are the three main things. 1, get your face and name out of the business. Number 2, delegate delegate responsibility away and hire so that a buyer is not buying a job. They can work on the business. And number 3, I would say, get your finances together, get your paperwork together on the business.
At what size, let's say revenue, or do you look at it more at EBITDA? Does it make sense to now be selling the business?
Yeah, no. So look, we don't care at all really about revenue, unless the only time we ask about revenue is if the profit is less than 10% of revenue. Other than that, we didn't care about revenue. If you make $1 billion revenue and 100K profit in a marketing agency, it's like, all right, like, why would someone want that level of operations for such a low level of profit, right? We're not talking about startups. This isn't a startup world. If you have a startup, we're always going to send you to someone else. Like we get leads for startups and we're like, hey, you haven't made money in 3 years. You have no vision for making money. You don't have no projections to make money. We can't help you. We're talking about businesses, and businesses like the one you own, like the ones I've owned, like the ones we buy and sell, they make money. We're here to make profit. This is the meat of the American economy, small to medium-sized businesses. We're talking about business, not startups, right? So with that being said, startups care about revenue. We care about profit. Our buyers care about profit. Where things get interesting in terms of profit is 100K plus. There's a reason for that. There's these very interesting segments of size, basically profit size. With 100K, anything under 100K, it's barely a business. It's barely a brand. There's barely any brand equity. Under 100K just doesn't have value. Because the first question any buyer asks who has 300-400K to buy a business that does 100K net profit is, can I build this on my own with 300-400K? And probably, yeah, you can, right? Once it gets to 100K and above in EBITDA and at least 2-3 years of history, then you can say, you know what? Yeah, this is actually quite smart to buy because I couldn't do this on my own. I couldn't do this so fast. So then it becomes interesting. Anything under 100K, not so much, right? When you get from 100K to 350K, this is the highest volume price range that we get for our buyers, our buy side service, lead acquirers. We buy a lot of businesses in this range because it's the perfect range for one on the buy side. It's people, the clients themselves buying these businesses. They only need about 50 to 75K as a down payment. And then we can usually negotiate seller financing or earn out for something else on the very cheap side. And then if they have 100K cash, we can probably buy a business worth 200K. So there's a lot of moving around there. And also the multiples are as low as they get at 100K EBITDA. Beyond that, it's, much bigger brands, longer track history, bigger profits and so on.
On the seller side with earnouts and seller financing, have you found that to be beneficial on both sides?
On the buy side, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Pre-COVID, you could usually get 20-30% seller financing and very few people wanted it. Earnouts are, I can't remember the last time we did an earnout on the sell side. We don't even want to talk about it. We don't even want to say the E word when we're talking sell side in my team. But seller financing, okay, that's something we understand is just the norm of the industry. We'd like to, one, try and get cash up front at a good multiple. Number two, okay, if that's not possible, if the market is down, which it has been for like a year and a half now, then okay, fine. We'll do 20-30% seller financing. If the business is that bad that it needs to do like 30, 40, 50% earnout, then we probably don't want to sell it. So it probably hasn't gone to that point for us. On the buy side, we are insane with the deals that we get. We have done, at the end of last year, we hit a record. We negotiated a 10-year earnout for 60% of the business. And it was a good business. But because it's such a buyer's market right now, we can get almost anything we want because there's very few buyers out there. Interest rates are very high. So if you're a strong buyer with cash, sellers will take almost any deal within reason.
Thank you, George, for coming on the show and everybody for listening to another episode of Failing to Success. Make sure to smash that subscribe button. I'm your host, Chad Galecki, and we'll see you next time.